Hi, I'm Helen Van Wyck and welcome to my studio. Ever since art students have seen the magnificent paintings of the Renaissance where the figures are beautifully draped, art students have wanted to learn how to paint drapery well. The art of painting drapery well is twofold, no pun intended. Look at this painting. The painter has to learn the anatomy of a fold, how to actually make it look as though it bulges. Also should learn how to drape it artistically in relation to the subject, not unrelated to the subject. See how this has something to do with this, and so does this, and that, and this, all having to do with the focal point of this lovely vegetable dish. By the way, that's one of my set of dishes. Now, let's look at the subject that I've set up today, and notice that I have arranged the folds in a variety of ways. They don't all hang exactly the same, like sausages all hanging in a butcher's shop, which I've seen so many times. A little bit of variety of size of drape and how they're falling down. Why don't I establish that composition first before I talk about the anatomy of the fold. Knowing the anatomy of the fold will help you make the fold look as though it has dimension. Let me get a brush and place the black vase and the rice bowl so I can arrange the folds accordingly. Because in this particular picture, the drapery is serving as an important element, but it is still the background. So it cannot ignore its obligation to the subject. So now I have to arrange my drapery in relation to this. So many times I've seen students start here and start, and they have no idea what's going to happen to the fold as it comes down to the focal point. So the better way to do the drapery is to start at the subject and work away. So I see a dark here. It is the cast shadow from the vase, but it also is part of the drapery. And then I see a big shape of dark here, which I think is going to be a better artistic decision than putting it in the middle of from here to here. Then I have a big space of light, and here I have a little darker tone on the fold that's peeking out from behind this fold. Then on the edge, instead of letting all the lines go out, I think it would be a better decision to have a fold come into the picture. Painting is always testing your taste and taxing your knack of doing it, recording it. And so here I have another dark. Why don't I make a little bit better shape of this? It's a favorite vase of mine. It serves many purposes in my still life painting. I would never let a fold drop down into this vase exactly right in the middle. It would look like part of the object's spine or an important anatomical factor of the vase. I also would never let a light part of the, I'll show you, I'd never let a light part of the drapery, I'm going to have the line just touch the edge. That's an example of the kiss. Can't kiss on canvas, so I'm going to make sure that my that light fold either would come into the vase or stay away from it. Always give your subject the advantage of beautiful surroundings. And I'm going to let this fold come into the picture and stop this big light area over here. Now I'd like to see how these folds, they're coming down, and then at this point they're changing and coming at me. I have to look and see what happens to their anatomy or their shape. This rolls into the vase, then it lays flat, and then I have a ending. This little fold does help a little bit. And now I have a fold coming from behind the vase. And just to make it a little easier for me, why don't I get rid of that tone value where I see the dark table? Why don't I also mass in the vase? And splash in a little bit of red. Oh, it's oranger than that. Grumbacher red and cadmium red light. I'm not going to make it its real shape, just a little suggestion of the color, because I don't want to touch that as I start doing the drapery. So let me stop or step back and see how the composition is so far. Now that I've alerted you to how you have to be artistic about the arrangement of the fold, let me talk about the anatomy of the fold. It's very obvious that these folds are falling down. It's also awfully important to take into consideration the fact that they're going in and out. This is the dimensional quality that you're trying to add to this two-dimensional surface. That's three-dimensional, that's two-dimensional. You'll notice that I've tested the waters. I've tested the color for the light side and tested the color for the shadow side. Let me show you how I apply these two values. Not up and down. That's obvious. Across. The across rhythm of application may help to get the feeling that the material is going two ways, up and down and in and out. You probably are noticing on the drapery that it's brocaded. I see that too. But how can I make a fold, or a drape, and make it brocade at the same time? I'll add the brocaded quality to the completed folds. I at least think that is a little easier than trying to do everything all at once. So these are the areas where I see the light strike the fold. Now with a mixture of raw sienna, and I squeezed out some manganese violet, an easy violet to use as a complementary to a gold color. And now I'm going to put in the shadows. all across. Let me get it all in and then I'll show you. What an asset this across rhythm can be. I see the two tones blending there. Now with a big brush, that will roll that drape into shadow. The next one, this is sharp. Oh, here's another blended shape. But this is a sharp shape. Here's another blended one. So if I put it in a cross, I can blend it in the obvious direction. Here's a sharp shape and here's a blended shape. Blend the two together, maintaining the shape. All I have to do is feather it together. Where is that brush? Oh, here it is. This is sharp. And here is another rolling edge. I call them turning edges. The place where the light turns into the dark. If I painted it up and down and blended it up and down, I wouldn't have a little feeling of solidity that it seems to have now, or the beginning of solidity. Let me come over on this side now. Here, this is a sharp contrast because it's where a cast shadow is bumping against a body tone. But here is a turning edge. I need the dark for that. And where that is coming around this way, change the little wiggle stroke, the poopsie-doo. I call it that because I don't know what else to call it. Yes, there is a word for that, an art term word. It's called cross hatch. Cross hatch. Cross and hatchet together. Makes it have an interesting way of blending. Always trying to impart interest to your application. It's amazing how easily people are bored by looking at a picture. You have to really do so much to it to have people look and say, "Oh, I love that painting." And so we now have basic light and basic dark, all massed in. What happens to make it look like folds is to, into the light and dark, more tone has to be incorporated. Into the shadow, into this shadow, I see a slight reflection. Relegating this to body tone and a body shadow, a reflection, and now that's the cast shadow. These reflections look more orangey. Reflections, by the way, should never be painted in the exact same color as where you have the color you've used for the light side. They aren't. They're not the same color and they're not the same tone. And here's a very nice reflection. Where's the reflection coming from? The light hitting here and bouncing back. So we start with 2 values, add 1, then we get 3. And add another, and we'll get 4. And that lighter other one is going to be the version of highlightery on the drapery to make this fold jump out. In this case, the highlight is lighter tones of yellow because it's not actually a highlight, it's more light hitting the convex planes of the material as it's toward the light. It's not extremely shiny. Yes, there are some shiny spots. We'll hope to get that on a little later. I'm still trying to just make the folds look like folds. So we had 2 tones, then I added a reflection. Got 3, I added a highlight, got 4, I got 1 more to add. The cast shadow. Darker. Darker. And to the darks you add more dark. And they are surely showing in here. Back in here too. And there's a strong one here. Get an itchy nose when I paint. They say you get an itchy nose, you're getting into a fight. I'm always fighting on a canvas. I'm always battling out the 3 things that I can get wrong: the shape, the tone, and the color. Yes, you may have your mind on drapery. I have my mind on the shape, tone, and color of the drapery, because that's what my paint can record. Now let me get back and see what has happened to this canvas from a distance. I've taken the liberty to painting in these things off camera because this is a lesson about drapery. I'm going to advance the appearance of the drapery, and I have to put my mind in 2 categories. What part of the drapery is on the table and becoming foreshortened? By the way, the next time we meet, I'm going to be talking about foreshortening. And then the part that's falling down, and now I might be able to include a little bit of the brocaded effect. Let me start out with the table. The folds are casting shadows on the table. That sets these folds down. This is in shadow. It helps that. And we see how the light is hitting the thickness of the material. that light is hitting the thickness of that material right there. Yes, it's hitting the thickness there. And catches the thickness here. That helps to set it down. I actually see this drape color in shadow there. The drape color in shadow here. And in there. The pattern plays across it in this way, so I look at the pattern and it looks more of an orangey color than the drapery itself. And again, I would see how I would introduce the brocaded effect in relation to the subject. And so the best place to do it is to start it from the subject. And make light of it as it encounters the edges of the canvas. One thing, though, I have to make sure to do is have some of the brocade go right behind the subject, or it will look as though I've got a little no man's land all around it. Say, I'm not going to touch this edge. Oh, I worked so hard on that edge, I'm not going to touch it, but that's going to make it worse, so I can always put it in and then flop it over. So many mistakes come as a result of fear rather than lack of ability. And what's happened to this drapery, now that it is beginning to look like a brocaded drapery, is where this darker brocade is, gets shiny highlights where it is in the light. And even though I only see the real highlight where the brocade is, I'd like to solidify the folds a little bit more, and again with a cross stroke lighten. The light area. Yes, I think that does help. Better. That's all we do. Can't make it right. All we can do is make it better. That's why encourage is important to have. Courage to try to make it better. Who knows what could happen by adding more? So next time we meet, I'm going to tell you about foreshortening, or maybe I'll teach you how to make soup. Hi, I'm Helen Van Wyck and welcome to my studio.